Come on in, bestie. Welcome to StoryPod, where we do the doing of story development together. Brought to you by Creative BFF. Hello. Listen, welcome to the StoryPod podcast. I am Ashley. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure to be before you today. Okay. If you have a story question that you would like me to answer here in the podcast, you can email me at ash@creativebff.com, or you can go to my website, creativebff.com, and shoot me like a little message in the contact section. You know what I'm saying? Definitely in the subject line, put that you have a story question or whatever you're reaching out to me for, so that I know that I need to elevate you above the spam that is clogging my inbox. Okay. I don't want to miss your message, girl. You know what I'm saying? So until such time as you get around to having a story question for me to answer here, we are, mining Reddit for questions. And that's what we're doing today. So the question is from the r/character development subreddit by Choice Rock 7. And it's just like a general discussion. What do you think? So I'm happy to chime in with my thoughts on this discussion. If someone was biologically designed for destruction, built with instincts that push them towards violence, can they ever truly rewrite what they are? Or is there a point where fighting their nature becomes impossible? So this is an interesting question. And before I start kind of yammering on about this, let me know what you think down below. How would you answer this question? Because I think that overall, I feel like if you are, let's think a little bit. I think the first question is, how deep is the biological engineering of creating violence? Because there are certain genes and things like that we can have in our DNA that may give us a predisposition towards something, but sometimes with certain predispositions, lifestyle and other things can mitigate that so that you don't necessarily have to succumb to what you are predisposed to, right? That might be, listen, I'm talking out the side of my neck right now. Okay. So I'm not a doctor. I don't have data in front of me. So please forgive me if I'm incorrect, but my understanding of it is like you could have genes, and like a family history of certain diseases, like heart disease and stuff like that. And maybe you are more predisposed to that. I don't know if heart disease falls in this, but we'll just use this as an example. But you may be predisposed to that just based on the way your genes are set up, girl. You know what I'm saying? But if you live a lifestyle that is healthy and active and all that kind of stuff, you may never get heart disease, because the fact that you have a predisposition towards something doesn't necessarily mean it's a foregone conclusion. And it may mean that you just have to be more vigilant about certain things, about your lifestyle and things like that, and not smoking and whatever else you can do to mitigate that disease that you may have a predisposition for. So is this kind of like that? Is it a predisposition towards violence? Or excuse me, or is it like you are literally born and bred and that's the first thought on your mind, and it's like violence is my whole personality type of thing? I don't know what the details of that particular character and story. So you have instincts. I'm looking at the question again. You have instincts that push you towards violence, but I think that so you don't necessarily, number one, you don't have to act on your instinct, right? You can then bring in things like your moral compass, things like your principles, those types of things which you get either through, the life that you've lived, the family that has raised you, or through your experiences and circumstances. Those principles, I think, will then shape the expression of those instincts, right? Especially if this is like a human person, right? It's a human person. So we have the ability to reason, to think, to make decisions, to understand consequences. All of those things are in play, right? So if you have, someone like a Superman, right? And this analogy that I'm going to use may or may not work, but Superman is like the strongest guy in the room, right? But he was raised, how he was raised, I think, and I don't know if I'm not like a Superman stan, right? I haven't like delved deep into his backstory. I haven't read all of the different iterations of Superman, right? But the way I'm imagining this and the way I'm interpreting this is his upbringing and having been raised by good people and having been given good moral principles and things like that allowed him to become a hero and use his, strengths and instincts and all of that kind of stuff towards helping as opposed to being destructive. Now, I do think that there is some version or universe or storyline in which Superman becomes a dictator, right? Or like some kind of tyrant or something. So he kind of uses it towards not a good thing. Although I think, if I'm not remembering this incorrectly, it probably, I would imagine, I don't know this storyline, but I would imagine he thinks that he is being in alignment with his moral compass, the moral compass that he has, that he was given by those who raised him. I don't know for sure. I could be totally wrong. So I think that having these other faculties in play, to balance and to mitigate and to direct the instincts, I think would go a long way in either keeping them from being violent altogether, even though it may be like a struggle to do so, or it will cause them to direct that in a constructive way. So for example, this character, if we're wanting to create like a good character or whatever, and this could be a very interesting struggle for them as part of their character development, where it's like, I am built to want to be violent in every situation. That's my first answer. But I need to use these principles, these morals, the way that I want, the type of person that I want to be, provided that this person wants to be a good person, a hero. I need to use all of that in service to keeping these instincts tightly in check, right? And only using it when it serves the greater good or when I'm saving someone. But that could be a very interesting dichotomy, a very interesting struggle that they have within them. And part of their growth can be how that plays out in them, right? And again, coming back to this idea of them, yes, their instinct is violence, but perhaps now they're like, well, let me join the army. Let me join a some sort of positive organization, or the police, or whatever have you, or whatever would be in the world of the story, so that these, maybe not the police, let's scratch that. Okay. I don't know. But if we're in some kind of sci-fi action, whatever, they join some sort of peacekeeping, positive heroes organization or something like that, so that their violent tendencies can be directed to actually helping people as opposed to harming people. And now there could be an interesting moral dilemma that comes in, which maybe this is what happened with Superman, where it's like, okay, what you see is the people you are trying to help, and you're expending all this energy to not go based purely off of your violent instincts that you have been bioengineered or designed to give into, either at your own whim, or under the direction of a handler type of person, or somebody whatever organization engineered you to be violent, right? If you're a rogue, basically. So I think that would be the thing, right? What was the sentence? I keep forgetting where I started the sentence. So where I was going with that sentence was, if they become disillusioned, the people that they're helping are janky, or they're ungrateful, or what they're doing isn't actually at the level that they're doing it, isn't actually making a difference in the way that they want to see it. So maybe they then are tempted to be like, let me be a little more extreme in my methods, while still trying to be guided by what they believe are correct moral principles that would put them in the camp of a good guy type of thing. So yeah, I think that would be my answer. I think that they would be fighting their nature. I don't think that it could become impossible based on the experiences, based on a trigger, something that happens that just pushes them over the edge of like, I don't even care to try to restrain this anymore. And that could be a very interesting and exciting moment. And that trigger could be somebody, very cliche, somebody that they love gets hurt or killed or something like that. Or, for the greater good, they have to unleash themselves, their full nature. So I think it also depends on the story that this is taking place in. But my answer would be that I think that there are other factors in play that could balance or even totally check one's biologically designed violent instincts if they are a human person, and depending on how they are raised, how their character developed, how, where they get their principles and all that kind of stuff from. So I'm going to let that be the answer for now. I'm not going to go deeper. I'm trying to be more efficient to a certain extent with these videos. Your girl likes to talk, but I do have a cold today. Okay. Which you may have heard. So I was like, let me try to get through this episode without having to blow my nose or sneeze. And I started to feel it. It started to come up. So I need to blow my nose, girl. But thank you so much, as always, for joining me for this episode of the podcast. It's always a pleasure to be with you for, a few moments out of your day. You know what I'm saying? A few moments out of your day, spending together, working our story brain muscles, preparing ourselves for when we are sitting in front of that page and we need to generate. We have the wherewithal to do so. Listen, have a great day. I will see you next time.